This TV has surprised me. I mean, in some ways, I'm awestruck, but can I recommend it? Welcome back, everyone. I'm Caleb Dennison, and this is my review of the Vizio P-Series Quantum X 85-inch model, distinguished by the model number P85QX-J01, and it's the J01 that indicates it is presently the latest model, no matter which size you're looking at. I'm gonna get straight down to business in this review. I'm gonna cover the good, the great, and the not so great, and by the end, I hope to have helped you decide if this is a TV you may wanna put in your home. If you end up finding this review helpful, maybe start clicking away down below and let me know in the comments if you're gonna hit the gas or take a pass on this TV after hearing what I've had to say about it. And hey, if you think somebody you know should see this video, sharing is caring, and you want to be caring, right? All right, let's get into it. So I wasn't kidding when I said I want to get right down to it. If you want to know a little bit more about this TV, check out my unboxing and setup video when you're done here. Otherwise, I think we need to dive right into picture quality. First, let's address the not quite elephant-sized blotch in the room. I'm talking about this spot right here. This, best as I can tell, is a very localized occurrence of dirty screen effect. Often when we see DSE, which by the way, I've got a video about that as well, it's spattered across the screen. In this case though, we have just this one very specific area, and then a little vignetting in the upper corners made a little more obvious by the TV's size and the height at which it sits. In other words, since I'm looking up at this area when I'm seated, I'm a little off axis and you can see the darkness at the corners a bit more at that point. Anyway, the rest of the screen is really clean, which makes that one spot an anomaly. I'm not gonna spend a ton of time guessing at whether this was shipping damage or a quality control issue, but I do not consider this to be egregious enough to spark a request for a replacement review sample. The lion's share of the screen, as I mentioned, is clean, and the area from which I measure, right smack in the center, is good to go. So I'm able to get a very good understanding of what this TV is capable of. Now that spot in the upper right, sometimes I didn't notice it while watching content. Like when I got sucked into watching a movie, it didn't call attention to itself most of the time. When there were scenes with light colors broadly painted across the top part of the screen, yeah, I saw it. So it was an annoyance, yes, but a rare annoyance. Okay, enough about that blemish. What can this TV do? Let's get into some basic measurement results first in a segment I've been calling Numbers for Nit-Nerds. By the way, some of you have suggested some alternate names for this segment, and I want to let you know I am considering them. Anyway, if you're not concerned with the deep stuff and just want to hear my takeaway on the picture quality, you can skip ahead using the links we have down in the description. Anyway, what I found was that the calibrated dark mode on this TV, and this goes for SDR, HDR10, Dolby Vision, as well as HLG on YouTube, is really the only picture preset I liked from a picture quality perspective. In my unboxing, I said I could see using calibrated bright if watching sports during the day, but I'm walking that back because most of the time, calibrated dark was actually plenty bright enough in SDR, and no question was the best mode for HDR and Dolby Vision. Two reasons I don't care for this TV's regular calibrated mode is that it seemed to raise the black levels to the point where they got milky for me, and that really stole from the overall contrast. Also, the color temperature was way too warm by default. Like normally a brighter picture mode, you get more blue in the whites, but when I tested this TV, it was very heavy in the reds, which I don't care for. Oddly enough, the bright picture preset was more balanced. Sure, this is something a calibrator can address in the 2-point white balance, and that helps things look more natural, but with the raised blacks and the off-target gamma in calibrated bright, I found that calibrated dark was what I preferred. If you get this TV, check it out and decide for yourself, but that's where I stand. Now, in this TV's brighter HDR picture modes, it was able to hit 3000 nits peak brightness, no problem. This came as a surprise to me, not because I didn't think it could do it, but because I thought that the C6 colorimeter I have was capped at registering about 2000 nits. Nope, lucky me, and I triple checked on this, it had no problem registering right up to about 3000 nits. In calibrated dark, HDR, and Dolby Vision modes, the TV maxed out at about 2300 nits using a 10% window. It was lower at 2 and 5% sizes, peaked at 10%, and then dropped down steeply to about 800 nits in a 100% full white window, and that is actually remarkable. In bright mode, I clocked 1500 nits in SDR, which is just like that's excessive if you ask me. But if there was any lingering doubt about whether this was a good bright room TV, let me banish that thought from your mind right now. This TV punches hard, like Mike Tyson on a plane after getting bottles of water thrown at him hard. Color accuracy measured pretty well with an average delta E of about 2.45. That's pretty good, but it was the color gamut and color volume that really impressed me. This TV is covering up to 80% of the BT 2020 color space according to my measurements, which is pretty awesome. So overall, the measurement data, pretty damn impressive for an 85-inch TV that comes in under $3,000 at most retailers. Truthfully, pretty damn impressive, period. But as we've learned over and over, measurements don't tell the whole story. In fact, they can sometimes be flat out misleading. So what's it like just watching this TV? On the whole, I found watching this TV really enjoyable. Dazzling at times, but not over the top, which surprised me. I expected to be just blown out of the room with unnecessary brightness power, but thankfully, Vizio's processing is very decisive about how it handles all the horsepower in this TV. Again, in the calibrated dark picture mode. The P85QX paints a very vivid, lively picture with generally good accuracy, and that's in part because on the other end of the spectrum, it's doing a really impressive job with blacks. The backlighting on this TV with all its 790 zones for this 85-inch model is not perfect, but it's really good. On the negative side, I caught the TV shimmering a bit in some cases. If you take a look at this windmill scene on the Spears and Munsell disc, you can see that shimmer off to the left-hand side of the screen. And I saw this on the TV's home screen and in some apps' home screens as well. For most of the TV and movie content that I watched though, even with a screen this big, which will really make imperfections more obvious, that backlight shimmer really wasn't an issue for me. But it is there and I have to make mention of it. Blooming was never a problem for me on this TV. Halos around subtitles or other bright objects on dark backgrounds were within very acceptable thresholds for an LED LCD TV. You can watch this TV in the dark and not be distracted by those backlight issues, which I consider a big win for this TV. Real world color was also surprisingly good, if not dead on accurate all the time. I think some folks might be thrown off by the reds at first due to their high saturation at high brightness levels. Like the red in some of these app thumbs looks pretty aggressive to the naked eye, but the reds I saw in regular content didn't come off as overly aggressive at all. Even the red lights in War Machine's suit on Avengers Endgame weren't out of control, and I have seen them look wrong on more expensive TVs before. As for motion in TV shows and movies, there's a bit of judder that you may see, especially in the 85-inch model, just because it's such a large surface area and so bright. I really can't comment on how it might look in smaller screen sizes, but it's there. You can engage motion smoothing if you want, but that can bring about its own artifacts. You can get smoother motion than this TV offers from another brand, but at this price, you're going to spend at least $1,000 more and probably a lot more than that. Honestly, for most folks, I don't see this being a huge issue. So the takeaway on the picture quality for this TV is that it's really impressive. I mean, you can't watch this TV and not just be really wowed out. If you're something of a video snob, you'll see some issues, but I think we are still well into the premium performance tier without stepping into the premium performance pricing tier. As for gaming, I'm less of a fan of the gaming mode preset than I'd like to be. Vizio's Pro gaming engine does allow for high resolution, high frame rate gaming, and the backlight allows for a lot of brightness pop without huge sacrifices to the black levels. But to get really great picture quality for games, and not just in-your-face brightness, you need to make several adjustments to get things dialed in. The color temp is a bit too cold, and the brightness is just over the top in my opinion. But 4K 60 and 4K 120 gameplay looks smooth to me, and the input lag dropped to about 8 milliseconds at 4K 120, which is definitely low enough to keep you competitive in a first-person shooter. For ultra high-level gamers, which I am not myself, I don't think this is gonna be your top choice for TV. But for like 97% of folks having fun on their game consoles, I think they'll be quite satisfied. As for the exact bandwidth of each HDMI port, it's still a little unclear to me, and I've reached out to Vizio for clarification, but it does appear there are at least 2 full bandwidth HDMI 2.1 ports separated from the eARC port, which I want to believe is also full bandwidth. So hopefully my suspicions are correct. I just don't see why they wouldn't label 2 of the 4 HDMI ports like they did the other 2. As for sound quality, well, I'm not a huge fan. In some bigger blockbuster movies, I felt like the TV pulled off a surprisingly wide soundstage, and at times you get a little bit of oomph from the TV, but the overall fidelity does not impress me. Fortunately, Vizio makes some great soundbars at relatively affordable prices, so I would personally plan on buying a soundbar to go with the TV. It deserves sound as big as its screen for sure. So, the big question, can I recommend this TV? The only reason it isn't an energetic yes for me is that I'm a little concerned about quality control. That's something I can't personally test and speak to with any authority because I just don't get to keep them long enough. My concern comes from both the state of this TV screen and others I've gotten from Vizio in the past. Also, and this is purely anecdotal, but I've heard reports all over the map from folks on their Vizio experiences. Some have had great experiences and others have not. So I do recommend you checking this TV out. If you get a solid unit, it is capable of some incredible picture quality that you just can't touch from another brand at anywhere near this TV's price. It's high brightness, high contrast, really impressive color volume, and sheer scale combined to deliver some serious wow factor. Like I said, I have really enjoyed watching this TV, and I know there are a ton of folks out there that would enjoy it as well. Thanks as always for watching, everyone. What do you think of the PQX? Let me know down in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and here's 2 other videos I think you might like.